Hello, dear viewers of the Cross Moto channel. In this episode, I want to talk about Opel motorcycles and their history. You heard that right? Yes, the Opel company produced motorcycles for some time. All of us know the Opel company primarily for its cars. Founded in 1862 by Adam Opel, the company would probably still be famous today for its sewing machines, bicycles, and motorcycles, if it weren't for his 5 sons. Let's start from the beginning. It all started with young Adam's fascination with technology. A native of the provincial Rüsselsheim, where the main change compared to the previous century was the appearance of a mechanical clock in the town hall, Opel constantly traveled around Europe. He represented his father's hat company and studied numerous mechanical curiosities with great interest. Adam was especially fascinated by sewing machines, so much so that at not quite 25 years old, in 1863 he dared to open the first factory in Germany for their production in the old cowshed. The success was tremendous. By 1887, Adam Opel's sewing machine factory had become the #1 in Europe. Adam named his products after his wife Sophia, and they were sold from Argentina and India to the Russian Empire and Algeria. The success with sewing machines allowed him to expand production. Adam, and especially his children, were fascinated by the new wonder, the bicycle. The first two-wheeled Opel appeared in 1886, and the sporting achievements of his sons, no less than 560 victories in 6 years, served as excellent advertising for him. At the same time, German Carl Benz was building the world's first automobile with an internal combustion engine in his workshop. However, Benz's invention did not impress Opel himself, which cannot be said about his sons, who continued their father's work after his death in 1895. Adam Opel's heirs were very enthusiastic about the idea of producing cars, and in 1899 they created a joint automobile assembly company with the wagon manufacturer Friedrich Lutzmann. However, due to disagreements between the partners, production of cars under the Opel-Lutzmann brand was discontinued after just 1 year. The search for a new partner led the Opel family to the French company Darracq. They supplied chassis with engines to Germany, on which original bodies were installed in Rüsselsheim. In addition to mastering car production, it was quite a logical step at that time for companies that produce bicycles to start manufacturing motorcycles. The first motorcycle from Opel debuted in 1901.
В 1901 году.
It was essentially a bicycle with a small engine. The engine was placed in a simple tubular frame. The rear wheel was driven by a wedge belt drive. The motorcycle was started with pedals, which, when moved backward, activated the brake located in the rear wheel hub. By the way, the pedals were also necessary to help the 1.5 horsepower engine when going uphill. The relatively affordable price of 700 marks immediately made the first Opel motorcycle a success. Soon, the public began to demand more performance from these machines. People always want more horsepower and speed. For this reason, on one hand, the power of the single-cylinder engine was gradually increased to 3 to 4 horsepower by 1907, and on the other hand, a motorcycle was built with a 2-cylinder engine producing 3.5 horsepower. Despite the fact that these models were sold for 400 and 600 marks respectively, these models had only modest success. Due to the financial crisis that broke out, production ceased at the end of the year. In 1911, a terrible fire broke out at the sewing machine factory. The brothers were forced to shut down their production, having produced about 1 million by that time. After the fire, the Opel factory was largely reconstructed, and the technical equipment was updated. At the end of 1912, a decision was made to return to motorcycle production at the new factory, and a year later, a prototype was ready. But it didn't go into production because in 1914, as you know, humanity was in for a much bigger event than these motorcycles. World War I broke out. After the war, motorcycle production resumed in 1919. The Opel brothers dusted off the 1913 prototype and decided it would suit the public of that time. It was a fairly ordinary bicycle with a single-cylinder 140cc engine, which was placed near the motorcycle. It was located near the rear wheel and produced about 1 horsepower. The Opel motorbike could boast a speed of up to 40 kilometers per hour, but most likely that was going downhill. 3 different versions of the machine were made, one for men, one for women, and even a sports version. Production of these models continued until 1924. In the difficult years of the post-war period, motorcycle production, well supported by a number of sporting successes, made a significant contribution to the popularity of the Opel brand. Since 1922, special Opel motorcycles with a single-cylinder 200cc 4-valve engine with liquid cooling won almost every race in Germany. You shouldn't think of this machine as a hardcore sports bike. The engine produced only 5 horsepower. Apparently, there just weren't many competitors among German motorcycles. Also, a lot probably depended on the rider. One of the most successful and famous racers was Fritz von Opel, who made the Opel company a household name. In the mid-1920s, Opel released a motorcycle with a single-cylinder 500cc engine, which, with its 16 horsepower, had excellent performance. The model was called the Opel Motoclub 500. Its production continued until 1925 when Opel once again suspended its activities in the motorcycle sector. 3 years later, motorcycle production resumed at the Elite Diamant workshops in Saxony, 75 of which were acquired by the Opel brothers. In 1928, the updated Motoclub 500 was introduced. It was a motorcycle with modern lines and exceptional handling, capable of reaching speeds of up to 120 kilometers per hour. The main innovations of the model were a frame made of stamped steel profiles instead of steel tubes, a solution that helped reduce production costs and the weight of the motorcycle while increasing overall rigidity and strength, and a fork with an unusual design. And besides all that, it had a unique appearance, featuring plenty of red tones. By the way, the red tires aren't photoshopped. The public was offered a choice of 2 versions of the motorcycle, the base version with a 16 horsepower engine and the SS version with a 22 horsepower engine recognizable by its 2 exhaust pipes.
Под закат производства мотоциклов
In 1930, another extremely interesting and unusual event happened at the Opel company. Fritz von Opel, the son of the company's founder and the director of testing and advertising at Opel, met Friedrich Zander and his powder rocket boosters. Fritz, besides being an active figure in the company, was also a motorcycle and car racer. In general, he was a daredevil. He dreamed of speed records and fame, so just imagine how thrilled he was when he learned about the possibilities of using powder rocket boosters. Opel got so excited about this idea that he put Zander's boosters on everything he could: a car, a rail car, a glider, and finally, a motorcycle. There are even unique shots of this madness. The base for the rocket motorcycle was the Motoclub 500 SS model. It was the company's most powerful and serious bike. As of 1928, according to official data, the speed record for a motorcycle was 200.6 km/h. Opel looked at the motorcycle his company built and thought, the design seems reliable. It should withstand extreme loads. And if you equip the motorcycle with rockets, there's a chance to break the record. Work got underway. The rear wheel was covered with a fairing, and 3 solid fuel boosters were placed on each side. Ernst Neumann Ninder developed a modified front fork and a lowered handlebar for the speed model. In addition, the motorcycle received large footrests made of sheet metal. The point of the run was that the 500cc single-cylinder engine, which produced 22 horsepower in stock form and was tuned to 30 horsepower on this motorcycle, accelerated it to a speed of about 140 km/h. And then, pressing a special lever activates boosters with a total thrust of 30 kg, which in 3 stages gradually accelerate this technical marvel to speeds over 200. The record-breaking run was scheduled to take place on May 23, 1928, on a public road near Freiburg. Theoretically, Fritz could have broken the record. The calculated speed of the rocket motorcycle was around 230 kilometers per hour. But for safety reasons, he was forbidden to do it. The run never took place. The very next year, another racer, a certain Lurs, decided to repeat Opel's attempt. However, he installed not 6, but as many as 14 rocket boosters on the motorcycle. It's not exactly known how it all happened, but the record wasn't broken either. In 1928, Opel, with a market share of 37.5 and 42,000 units sold, became the largest German car manufacturer. Yes, it must be admitted that the Opel brothers mainly placed their bets on the automobile. And we also know that at this time, a financial crisis was looming over the entire capitalist world. By the end of 1929, the owners of the Opel company were deeply concerned about this very crisis. This pushed them to make the decision to join the General Motors Corporation. GM acquires 80 shares in the Adam Opel AG company for about $26 million, becoming the majority shareholder. Despite joining the corporation, Opel retains its autonomy and freedom and strengthens its position in the global market. Opel also becomes the first German manufacturer to establish its own insurance company. In 1931, GM buys the remaining 20 shares in the company. At that time, Opel became the 100th branch of the American company, with a staff of 13,000 people producing 500 cars and 6,000 bicycles daily. It was decided to shut down the motorcycle program, and this time, the company would not return to motorcycle production, as it had done more than once in its history. That's it, my friends. My story comes to an end. Thank you very much for your attention. As always, you can support the channel by subscribing to it and sharing the video with others. You can also support financially using the details in the pinned comment. This has been Cross Moto. See you next time.